Welcome! Whoa, geez. Hey, today we're going to be restoring this Macintosh LC3. Maybe not the most desirable retro computer, but for me it is. Partially because it's a Mac and I like Macintosh, but also because it has an Apple IIe card letting me play Apple II titles, soft PC installed to play MS-DOS titles, and a couple other things that came installed when I purchased it. But before any of that, I think we need to run through a restoration, because it was quite yellowed when I got it. There were some leaky capacitors on the board, and believe it or not, the hard drive wasn't working anymore when I received it, despite the fact that it was before it was sent to me, and I had my suspicion as to what might be causing that, since it is a quantum drive and they have known problems. It has to do with this little rubber bumper underneath the platter that it's supposed to keep the heads from the arm from hitting too hard, but over time it gets gooey and things get stuck, and the hard drive will never really go through its self-check phase properly. So we're gonna go ahead and fix that too while we're in there. And I think it just needed a little new life breathed into it. So if you want to come along with me today, we're gonna take a little adventure through some retro brighting, some work on the motherboard, and see if we can return her to her former glory as you see her now. But first, let's take a look at what it looked like when I got it. Yellow. Satisfyingly clicky though, and not too bad. Let's take a brief look at some of the software that came pre-installed on here. Flight Sims, my favorite. You can even load up the Apple II desktop if that's your thing for whatever reason. And the Apple IIe card has tons of nifty little options to access. And here we are in soft PC, ready to play a little MS-DOS action. And yes, this is a holiday edition of Lemmings. But before I was able to, enjoy any of this, I had to take a look at that hard drive and fix it. So I'm gonna run you through what I did to get it to live once more. We're gonna unscrew this plate, and keep in mind that while these old drives have a low data density and you don't have to be as careful with them, try to minimize dust as much as you can. And we're gonna lift this up here, and I'm gonna show you that the arm here that holds the heads should move relatively freely. And you'll know something's wrong if, there's a really stickiness to it. And the way I fix that is putting that little foam spacer down here, just to keep the arm from making contact with that rubber spacer underneath the platter and sticking when it goes to the rest position. It's a really easy fix if you know what to look for and that's what's wrong with your hard drive. Help keep these things alive, because eventually they're all gonna fail, but this seems to be a big failure point for these. So let's go ahead and seal this back up and get moving. For my Retro Bright recipe, I use just a 50-50 mixture of peroxide and Sure-Gel. Just a food gelatin. Thicken it up into a bit of a paste. This is just a little bit right here. And wow, You know, it's not the worst yellowing I've seen at all, but you can tell it's definitely pretty yellow, especially here on the keyboard. But we're gonna fix that. Alright, let us begin the disassembly. And surprisingly, it's very easy to take apart. Well, I guess not. Old Apple stuff is always pretty easy to take apart. Everything pretty much snaps out, including the motherboard itself. And there you go. This is kinda nasty looking. Now that we have everything disassembled, it's time to put our nice little layer of Retro Bright on and wrap everything up in some saran wrap and set it outside in the sun. It's a little cold here right now, it's winter time, so I had to do this several days in a row, but everything did turn out pretty nice. Now, what really needs to be taken care of are all these old capacitors. Almost all of them were leaking onto the motherboard when I opened it up, so they needed to come off. At first I attempted to desolder them, but I found the most reliable method was just the old wiggle until the legs break. Which, as long as you don't go 600-pound gorilla mode, you know, you shouldn't pull up any pads. Even though I did do that. And there you saw how I had those little legs bent in the best way possible to easily access these pads, keep it a low profile. It was over on this side of the board that I actually did manage to lift some pads off, but I was able to you know, scrape some of the mask off and access the traces, get everything patched back up. It's just a little extra work. And that is a repaired board. Now let's go wash everything off here after bringing it in from its retro brighting siesta, and everything's looking pretty clean. One word of advice, if you are using my Retro Bright recipe with the gelatin, make sure you really get in there in any crevices, because it's pretty gooey sometimes. And we're going to continue putting things back together, and then we'll see the final product, see if everything turned out a-okay, see if it boots up, even. The moment of truth. Ah, there you go. There you go. I hope you enjoyed our restoration process, my own little Retro Bright recipe, and can appreciate this often overlooked Macintosh, which is a shame. They're great machines. If you have any ideas of what I should do next, you can go ahead and leave a comment. Feel free to contact me. I'm looking forward to more retro adventures in the lab.